Ladies and gentlemen, as chairman of the West End Synagogue, on behalf of my counterparts at the United Synagogue, Western Marble Arch, St. John's Wood, Sachi synagogues, as well as Magen David Adom, good evening and welcome. The history of this 145-year-old community is inextricably linked to the state of Israel through our members, Viscount Samuel, you'll see his plaque over there, President Chaim Weizmann, among many great men and women who have been members here throughout time. It is therefore poignant to embrace tonight these great family members who have traveled today from Israel to share the horrific truth of what has killed their families on October 7th, the day of atrocities against humankind, as well as another attempt to destroy the state of Israel. It's now my honor to introduce you to Benjamin Anthony, co-founder and CEO of MirYam Institute, who has organized this special event. Benjamin?
Good evening to everybody here. I hope that everybody can hear me very clearly. Can you?
Yes.
Wonderful. It's a great privilege to be here this evening as we gather together to show our solidarity with the families of the hostages and of those murdered by the Hamas terror organization during the course of the most horrendous, horrific, bloody and murderous rampage throughout southern Israel that took place on October the 7th. Before I come to my opening comments, I want to first express my thanks to Mr. Jeff Altman. Thank you so very much, Jeff, for having us, for hosting us. Thank you to our co-hosts, Western Marble Arch Synagogue, Central Synagogue, St. John's Wood, and Sachi Synagogue, as well as Magen David Adom. I also want to express my profound thanks to my co-founder at the MirYam Institute, Rosita Panini, who's sitting here on the front row. Thank you, Rosita, for traveling in from New York to be with us today and to accompany the families that are with us. And to Mr. Leon Apfel, thank you for bringing this about. And to my colleague, Richard Offenbacher, who is not here, but without whose help this evening would not have come to fruition. I'd also like to give a quick note of sincere gratitude and appreciation to our security teams. Thank you so very much for keeping us safe today and always. Some of you may wonder how you can support those families whose anguish endures in ways that we cannot possibly imagine. You can do so by way of purchasing bracelets of support. They are selling for £5 a bracelet, £10 for a necklace. They are the identification of those who stand with the families of the hostages. And all funds go to the activities of the organization that is powering forward the PR campaign to keep the plight of those families in the public eye. They will be sold here at the conclusion of the event, and you will be able to make those donations and investments by way of credit cards or cash. And you can speak to Rosita Panini or to Jeff Altman in that regard. My friends, here in the United Kingdom, marches in support of Hamas after the events of October the 7th have been far too replete and far too often encountered. We literally have groupings of people who proudly, militantly militate in support of an organization that has raped, decapitated, murdered, and kidnapped our people Sitting here in front of me are Orit Meir, whose nephew is being held captive by Hamas today, and Orit Meir, whose son, Almog, nephew to Aviram, is being held hostage inside the Gaza Strip to this day. And we will also be joined very shortly by Doron, who on the 7th of October lost 4 members of his family. His brother was murdered, his nephew was murdered, and 2 members of his extended family were murdered. And we thank all of them for giving of their time and of their strength, which I do not know from where they draw upon such resolve as to come here and to speak to us today. As we see people who would champion the cause of terrorists who have brought around the horrors that these families are facing right now, I believe that it harkens back to the poem written by Amir Gilboa, a poet laureate of the State of Israel who moved to what was then Palestine from the Ukraine. And he composed a 3-stanza poem on the attitudes of the nations of the world towards the Jewish people, and therein he wrote, quote, Im yaroni etz v'omar etz yomru etz. Im yaroni even v'omar even yomru even. Ach im yaroni dam ve'omar dam yomru tzeva. What Gilboa wrote there was that if the nations of the world show me a tree and I concur that it's a tree, they will say, yes, it's a tree. And if they show me a stone and I concur that it's a stone, they will say, yes, it's a stone. But if they show me my Jewish blood spilled, and I concur that it's my Jewish blood spilled, they will say it's not Jewish blood, it's just paint. It's just color. And those who would rampage through the streets of London in support of those who have rampaged throughout the state of Israel seek to reduce Jewish blood to a value of nothing more than spilled paint, and we will not allow that to happen. I want to share with you a little bit about my background in very brief form, and then conclude with why all of us ought to steel ourselves to the certainty that the State of Israel will rise from what it faced on October the 7th. I was a sergeant in the Israel Defense Forces, and I'm a veteran of 3 wars. Second Lebanon War, Operation Pillar of Defense, Operation Protective Edge. I arrived in the uniform of the Israel Defense Forces because my family faced tremendous anti-Semitism here in the city of Manchester, among other cities in the UK, and it was here that I was born and raised. My older brother Jonathan was once savagely set upon by a group of 7 thugs in the city of Manchester, and he was beaten so severely that he had to undergo 3 liver transplants as a consequence of the injuries he sustained that day. In September 2020, Jonathan, having undergone his 3 liver transplants in the year 1998, and having married, and having built a career and a profession for himself, and having a child, Maya, in September 2020, Jonathan was required rather, a 4th liver transplant. That 4th liver transplant brought me to a position where I had to coordinate the potential resection of my younger brother Raphael's liver so that it could be transplanted into the body of my older brother Jonathan. Now, ultimately, that which is termed a living donor regraft was averted. Fortunately, his surgical team identified a cadaveric liver, and Jonathan continues to live to this day. And thank God, B'Sha'at Tovah has another baby on the way. But it was that Jew hatred that taught me that if I wanted to be safe because I'm Jewish rather than in spite of the fact that I'm Jewish, the only place that grants that to me is the State of Israel. And I believe that when we look upon what took place on October the 7th, many of us are wondering, is that State of Israel yet safe? Is our presumption that the state of Israel is a safe haven for the Jewish people a well-founded presumption? Well, I want to link these experiences, my military experience and my experience with Jew hatred, in my comments here tonight. First and foremost, a word about our soldiers. The soldiers of the Israel Defense Forces are making a walk that I had the privilege to make when I wore a uniform. And it is a privilege to serve beneath the flag of the Jewish state to defend the Jewish people and all who dwell within her borders. I know of their mindset, I know of the purity of their heart, and I know that each and everything that they undertake, all of you can continue to take the deepest pride within. Indeed, my dear brother, Alexander, the youngest of the 7 children, is inside the Gaza Strip right now as we speak. He's a tank driver. There was a period of time just prior to my brother's 4th liver transplant when I began to be lobbied by the medical professionals assigned to his medical case. He was brought into hospital and I was told that he had 30 days to live. We ended up drawing out that time frame, but he was always on a downward spiral. And 48 hours prior to the transplant taking place, I was contacted by his anesthesiologist, who proceeded to tell me that it was time to end the medical treatment of my brother. He was in the ICU, the intensive care unit. He had been admitted with liver failure. He had gone into lung failure. He'd gone into kidney failure. And it was assessed that he was dangerously close to heart failure, which would have brought about his demise. But then that same anesthesiologist who was using that series of failures to emphasize why it was time to give up on his medical salvation went on to say, almost flippantly, that his kidneys might recover, that his lungs might recover, but that it was highly unlikely. And as he said those words to me, I learned something that I'd never known before, because being a layman rather than a medical professional, I always thought that when one's organs go into failure, that was permanent. Kidney failure is permanent. Lung failure is permanent, at least so I believed. But what I learned from that anesthesiologist that day was that failure is not necessarily fatal. Failure can be turned around as long as the heart is beating. It's the difference, you see, between an acute condition and a chronic condition. An acute condition is somewhat fleeting. A chronic condition is much more close to something permanent. Well, Jonathan, my brother, did turn his medical situation around. And I've already told you that his life continues and goes, thank God, from strength to strength. But I mention this because, of course, all of you are following the situation in Israel, and all of you know that what we've seen there is a terrible, terrible failure. And I won't insult your intelligence by pretending anything else is the case. We've seen a terrible failure of our military. We've seen a dreadful failure of our security establishment. We've seen an awful public failure of our leadership. But that failure is not fatal. You are not watching the demise of the state of Israel. You are not going to see the destruction of the state of Israel. The failure that we saw on October 7th is acute, not chronic, and the chronic condition of our security forces and our leadership is that of victory and security and resilience. And it's upon that reality that all of us must affix our attention and our beliefs. The October the 7th massacre was the bloodiest day since the Holocaust to befall the Jewish people, but it absolutely is not the Holocaust because it's a different set of Jews now, a set of Jews that can fight and that will prevail. I want to leave you with one quote that all of us know, but it bears mentioning here. במקום שאין אנשים, השתדל לחיות איש. In a place where there is no humanity, strive to be human. There is no humanity among Hamas, that much is clear. Hamas must be vanquished from the face of the earth. Our soldiers, the members of the Israel Defense Forces, are in the process of delivering humanity to a place that to this time has been ruled by demons. The IDF is now on the move. The IDF will be accused of war crimes, but they are not criminals. The members of the Israel Defense Forces, in my opinion, are malachim. They are angels who are marching proudly and rapidly and with determination where human beings dare not tread. And one final point. When that anesthesiologist was speaking to me about why my brother's time had come, my brother was in the room, I was on the phone, and I could hear him croaking. My brother, a human body emits a croak when it's about to reach its end. I want to be very, very clear with all of you here tonight. What you are hearing now coming out of the Gaza Strip, when reading the reports and watching the news about our activities there, it is not the croak of the nation of Israel. Far from it. What you are hearing is the roar of the Lion of Judah. And our beloved Israel remains strong. And Be'ezrat Hashem, with God's help, אנחנו ננצח, we will prevail, as we must, and we will speedily bring upon ourselves and on all the house of Israel the realization of our most devout prayer, that of knowing Shalom al Israel, peace over Israel. I thank you, and I thank all of you for now paying your full attention to our guests here tonight, the family of Almog, held in captivity by Hamas since October the 7th. Thank you very much. I'd like to begin, please, if I may, Orit, with you. First of all, I want to tell you publicly that which I shared with you privately, which is everybody here loves you, supports you, is invested in the return of your son to the state of Israel, of your nephew to the state of Israel. And all that you need to do to communicate with the audience here is to speak from the heart and speak candidly. And then they will ask you questions. They will ask you questions so that they can learn more by way of your current situation and your description of it. So first of all, tell us, Orit, if you can, do you want to make a prepared statement or do you want me to interview you?
It depends on you.
Okay.
I can.
Why don't you tell us what you've prepared for us,
Okay.
and take your time.
All right. Thank you. My name is Orit, and this is my son. My son Almog is 21 years old. Only 21. You see his smile. Always smile on his face. Friendly, sociable, loved by people. Taking life easy. This is my son. The last time I saw him, it was October 6th. Friday at 11 p.m. He left home with his friend. They went to the big party in south of Israel party of peace and love. My son used to go to lots of parties. We are in a happy family. I'm going to dance by myself too. I love life. And he went to this party the last morning on October 7th, the Black Saturday. I woke up at 7:45 a.m. to a phone call from my son. He sounds focused and serious. Mom, there is rockets and shooting everywhere. I don't know what is going on. I'm hiding. I try to call you every half an hour. Mom, I love you. This was the last phone call from him. I turn on TV and I understand that there was a terrorist imposing on the party in all the area. I called my daughter, and together we published his picture with a question, who saw Almog? He went to Nova Festival. This was Nova is the name of the festival. And we waited at home. We didn't know what to do. We just saw news. And after 4 hours, a friend of him who recognized him in a video clip that the Hamas published, I recognized, she sent me the video clip. And I recognized my son. He was lying on the floor with other 4 guys.
Video. Can you run it?
This is the video clip that I got. I saw him frightened. And he was lying there, you saw him. And we didn't know what to do. I want you to continue.
Good evening. Almog called his mother at the morning, and after he closed the phone call, he entered the car, a car of a friend which he came to the party with him. His name is Tomer. And another 2 girls that he knew from the party entered this car also, and they tried to escape from the area. They couldn't move along too much because the bullets of the Hamas got them to escape from the car.
The car exploded.
The 2 sisters ran away with the phone in their hand, and they were talking with their father. After an hour and a half of conversation, which they were hiding from the Hamas, their father heard the last breath of his daughter. Tomer escaped from the car, the driver. He called his parents at about 8:30 in the morning, told them that those people were in the car and he's hiding. Tomer was murdered also by the Hamas. It took to the IDF 2 weeks to identify the bodies. I'll leave you the imagination why. Almog is the only one who is, as far as we know, is living. He's hostage in the Hamas, but as far as we know, and we know it from this clip, is living. This video that you just saw, there are 5 guys. All of them have been in the party, in the festival. They are not friends. They just arrived to the same basement or what it is. And now we know the families. We know all the stories of all those guys. And as far as we know, they are alive. But from that video that was published at about 12:30 noontime, 7th of October, we don't know anything. It's been, I believe, 44 days.
Nothing. No one came to see them.
It's 44 days now, and we still don't know anything. Just imagine yourself that you have no connection with your son, in my case, with my nephew. He went to a party. He just went to a party, and he arrived at the horrible place on earth, which was a few kilometers from the party. This is from that time, from noontime, 7th of October, we are living in a roller coaster. We decided that we won't live in grief, just in grief. We have to do something. And Almog give us strength to continue and tell his story, continue and working. And when I mean working is coming over here, is interviews, coming to conventions, and the doing have 2 goals, 2 objectives. One is to tell Almog's story, which it doesn't have to be like this to anyone in the world. And another goal is to bring the awareness of the hostages. Almog is one of 240 about. It changes every day. And those families are living in fear. I met yesterday most of the families who had a convention in Tel Aviv. And the people are angry. The families are very angry. They want answers, and there are no answers. Our government don't give us answers. I believe they don't know. Those families live in fear. And I don't know if they can rehabilitate in the future. Last week, we got 2 body bags of hostages. One of them was a soldier, 21 years old or 20 years old, and another one was, the name, you remember? It was Judith Weiss, yes, 65 years old from Kibbutz Be'eri. And suddenly we understand that it's going to be very, very hard and very, very long and very, very extreme. You have to understand that every deal that we hear in the news, for us, it's like stabbing our stomach all the time. All the news about deals, if we want to make it through from all this news, we just don't listen because it hurts too much. We can't deal with it. When there will be deal, we know about it. And also, what is a deal? To bring 50 persons, what will be with the others? To bring just the children or just the old ones? So what will be with the young ones? They are going to rot in a basement in Gaza Street for 9 years, like Goldin and Oron Shaul. So we are the families start to fight between ourselves. Who should be first? But it's like a joke to fight about it or to discuss it because we have no effect on it. The only effect we have on it is to talk about it and to come to you and tell you that we need help. We need your help. We need your help with publishing this story. We need your help with entering to Almog Instagram page or Facebook page, which called Return Almog, and publish it. Publish it to your families, to your communities, to your partners, business partners. Publish it. And maybe someone will know someone who will help and go to the meditators of Egypt and Qatar and tell them that all this story is about humanitarian. It's in the end, in our story, it's a young man who went to a festival, to dance in a festival. This is it. He didn't want to fight. He didn't want to guard his country. He went to dance.
He went to dance and he didn't come back. I don't know if he's eating, if he takes a shower, if he's brushing teeth. I don't know anything about what he's doing there. And my son is full of energy. I can't even think about him, how he sits there, how he in the basement with all his energy. I don't know what he's doing there and how can he survive. My life is tragedy. This is my reality.
I want to ask some questions because I want people to understand. Can everybody hear me clearly? And you can hear our speakers, more importantly, clearly. First of all, thank you so much for sharing something of what you must be going through. It's apparent to everybody that it's not easy to do that. And I also know that it's very, very difficult for you to be outside Israel at this time. It's unnatural for you to be outside Israel at this time. But you've come here, and tomorrow you will be going to the British Houses of Parliament, to speak to legislators, lawmakers, voters who are not of the Jewish faith necessarily. What is your expectation of those people? What do you want to see them do to help you in this battle to bring your son Almog home? I'll ask you first, if that's okay, and then we'll move to you. Okay.
There's nothing new, I just talked about it. We need the awareness. We need the British people to know what you are going through, to know our humanitarian situation. I want to tell you that no one of the hostages have been visited by the Red Cross. We don't know anything about Almog's situation, and we don't know anything about all the other hostages' situation, which there are lots of medical problems to lots of people. Probably you heard that last week there have been a birth in one of the hostages. So, can you imagine a situation that hostages can't be seen? We don't know anything about them. And this one we need the help of the British government, lawmakers, to pressure everyone in the Middle East they can. First, to create a medical stairway to the hostages, and then to help us release them. They should be at home. By the way, they are civilians. They are civilians. They are not, most of them are not soldiers. So, part of them, and you'll hear Doron in a few minutes, part of them have been taken from their beds with a pajama on themselves, and this is it, without shoes. So, if it's not humanitarian, what is humanitarian? There's nothing here in politics, nothing here in bringing politics to the table. It's humanitarian netto, as I see it. They have to come back home, and they have to come back home now. If they won't come back home, or if they won't come back home alive, most of them have to come back home alive. If they won't come back home alive, we can't rebuild Israel. We can't do it. This is a basic basic condition to reelevation of Israel after this war. This is how we see it. If they won't come back, there won't be Israel. We have to bring them back. And this is what we do. Because of that, we are here.
So yesterday, there was a march of the families of the hostages to the Knesset. And there was also rumor that there was a deal for 50 hostages to be returned approximately. And today we're told that there was no deal. The family of the hostages have shown this incredible togetherness where you've refused to allow Hamas to separate not only between the hostages but also between the family of the hostages. And when they cynically say, well, we'll send children, or we'll send women, or we'll send those who are not Jewish, or those who have dual nationalities, you have said all and all together and now. How, in the face of that psychological brutality by Hamas, do you all remain so united when it comes to what you just said, which is bringing all of them home? How do you keep together? Yeah, what's this?
We have a form.
Can they hear?
The day after it happened, private people decided to make a form for the parents, from the families, from the hostages' families. And this form was built only from people, but only for volunteers. And they give us, it's a place that a family can come. It gives us lots of strength. We meet them, they are people. We get interviews, we make interviews to Israel and to foreign countries. And there are lawyers there. We have, it's, and I want you to explain about the form. But it's, the ideas come from this form. For example, this march, it was an idea of one of the parents. Because lots of the kibbutzim are in hotels in different places now because they can't be in the kibbutzim themselves because what happened. So he decided that he asked for a walk into Jerusalem for 3-4 days. And lots of citizens came, not only us or the families. I went yesterday to Jerusalem too. It gives me lots of strength.
Yesterday marched 25,000 people.
Yes.
to Jerusalem.
We walked 4 days.
So I want to ask you another question about that, Orit, if I may. There are mothers in this audience, there are uncles in this audience. Of course, nobody knows the horrors that you're going through. How do you, on a day-to-day basis, get through? Is it through taking action? Is it through the marches? Is it through bringing awareness to the international community? How are you managing day-to-day? You said that your life is dreadful at this time, and everybody knows that. I think what we don't know is how you manage to push through all of that each day and dare I say each night. How are you doing it?
We also don't know.
I
just
think.
Just a minute.
Yeah.
We just live from one day to another, or from 1 hour to another hour, because we don't know what will be developed, or what will be the news, or what will be the next initiative that will take. There are lots of people, good people who help us, especially in the forum. And there are lots of things we would like to do, like conventions, like meetings with several politicians, like arranging exhibitions of the kidnapped. If you've been in the square, the kidnapped square in Tel Aviv, there is a square like this. Every day there is a new exhibition there. Every day. And it's like an open-air museum. It became open-air museum for hostages. And lots of artists come over there, and singers. And this is a place that I can stay there all day long talking with people, and it gives us lots of energy to be there. So if we have nothing special to do, we are going over there. But now we, Orit and me, decided to go to talk with pupils at schools and tell them what we do daily and how we feel and how can they deal with it, because most of the people in the festival were very young. They were 21 years old, 22 years old, 26, 18, and so on. So we decided and we started to talk with the pupils in schools next week.
I'll tell you, I'll continue.
Just bring the microphone.
Since it happened, since Almog kidnapped, I can't drive, so I need a driver to take me to places. I'm not working in my work now. My new work now is to bring my son back home. So the city hall I'm living in Or Yehuda city. The city hall helped me to bring me food, lunch. I have someone who clean my house because I'm not working, I'm not cooking, I'm all the time working for my son. I had a driver who took me from a place to place.
A volunteer.
Volunteer, everyone, volunteers, everyone. And when I want to, how אומרים שלטים גדולים?
Big banners.
איך?
Big banners.
Butters. We make big butters of a picture of Almog, bring it back. All the city has his pictures. Everywhere on the main roads, his pictures. Every family make their own fight for bring the hostages. But we are together, all the families work together. We decided that we want them back, all of them, not few, all of them together. That's what we want from the government.
I have one last question actually before we hear from Doron, and then we're going to take some audience questions. On that note, how is the government helping you? How is it not helping you? I'm not talking about in terms of politicking one politician or another. I just want to know, you're here to speak to the British government, and you'll speak to other governments, I'm sure. And just last week we brought Doron and a family member of another individual in that same video to Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. How is the Israeli government helping you? Where does the help begin? Where does it end? What more do you want? Is it more than you could have imagined? Tell us, Orit, if you would.
The government, I have I have a representative from the government. She came to me and she confirmed that Almog kidnapped. She gives me, she helped me. She's doing lots of things for me. First of all, when I had כל הניירת של...
Paperwork.
Lots of papers, lots of... יש לי בעיה לדבר פתאום. כן.
Michal, our representative, is in a reserve, is an officer in the reserve of the army, and she's connected with a forum of the kidnapped, which are not the family, of the governmental forum. It's called also the Kidnapped Forum, and she's connected with them. So if there is any information about Almog, she tells us. If there is a problem with the national security, she helps us. For example, the passport that I entered today, Britain, they arranged it for me because the other one just have been finished. And things like this. But this is the things that we need them generally, but daily we are working, we really working at the offices of the Forum of the Families, of the kidnapped families, which is civilian. And there we are working every day, we are arranging our thoughts there, meeting with other people, other families, and organizing plans what to do together. The government help us in some small things, but not on all the daily aspects of life. This is what do the Forum of the Families, which is civilian or volunteers. No one gets salary there, and there are just to know, there are 3,000 volunteers just in this forum, which are working every day there for us, for the families, for supporting us. So if something is significant, it's the civilian forum.
And that I want to remind everybody, and a way of investing in the Families Forum is for them to purchase the bracelets that we have. Right. And those are £5, and also a necklace that you brought from Israel, and those are £10. This is the necklace. This is of the diskit, or what Americans call the dog tags of the soldiers, and it's now to identify with the families and to support the work of the Families Forum. I don't want you to go, because I'm going to come back and we're going to have some audience questions. It's very important to us, and thank you so much, Orit. I really don't know how you've done it. We have here Doron Lipstein, and Doron, as I mentioned in the words before you came in, Doron, you are here, again, another individual who's sitting upright, and I don't know how, because you've gone through horrific tragedy in your family. Your brother was murdered on October the 7th, your nephew was murdered on October the 7th, and as I said, 2 members of your extended family were murdered on October the 7th. You accompanied us to the United States last week. You spoke to representatives, you spoke to Democrats, Republicans, staffers, members of the House of Representatives, senators, in order to press forward the importance of supporting the work to destroy Hamas, and also to let people know who your brother was. And I want to actually, before we take some questions, I'd like to show the video of Doron's brother so that everybody could understand just who this individual that was taken from us was.
מאתגר מאוד לעבור מסטטוס של שגרה לסטטוס חירום. אמנם יש פה אנשים מאוד מאוד חזקים בעוטף, אבל עדיין זה אנשים, זה לא מכונות, וחסר לנו הנושא של תחושת הביטחון.
Ophir fought the Hamas terrorists and died the morning of October 7th. He was protecting his family. He was protecting his community in Kibbutz Kfar Aza and also his country. To be honest, the way he acted came to me as no surprise. People looked at him as a leader and a mentor, and even as a kid, he would always stand up for others. Ophir was a man of a vision and stood up behind so many projects in Israel. One who was initiated by him and his wife called Doron. Everybody knows it in Israel because people from all around the country come to see the landscape and the flowers, the red flowers of the Negev. The Jewish community around the world was in his heart. He was working to bring closer the local small communities from all around the world, and he brought them to his house, to his heart, to the Negev. This was very important for him, and he became the chairman of Abonim Dror and the founder of Wikibutz, who is building the relationship between Israel and the diaspora.
אופיר היה החבר הטוב שלי בעולם והשותף שלי לעשייה היהודית ציונית. הוא יזם מיזמים כגון חמסה, הללויה ונטעים, ויחד איתו פרצנו דרך קדימה בעולם היהודי ציוני. בנינו פרויקט לקהילות קטנות סביב חוסן קהילתי. הוא האמין בקהילות ובחוסן שלהם. היה לו תשוקה לעולם היהודי ציוני, זה היה כל כך חשוב לו.
אופיר עבורי מסמל את גבורת החיים. גבורת החיים היא היכולת של האדם, בתקופה קצרה בחייו, כמו אופיר, לצקת תוכן משמעותי לחיים האלה. הוא סמל ומופת לאיש חזון, לאיש ביצוע, למנהיגות, למחנך, אבל הכי הרבה אהבת אדם, ופניה היפות של מדינת ישראל.
Ophir was very proud of Hamsa, our lone soldier program. Even though he led many projects, he was always interested in the details. It was amazing. He was personally involved in the well-being of each and every soldier.
Ophir embodied the essence of Hallelujah Project. He really inspired us to come up and establish a multicultural educational platform that is aimed to unite youth from Israel and beyond. We did so in order to groom and to cultivate the future leadership of our society.
איש שהאמין בדרך, האמין באדם, האמין שגם לאנשים שמעבר לגבול צריך שיהיו חיים טובים.
You see, Ophir touched so many hearts, and he made everyone his friend. Whether it's in Gaza, whether it's in Europe, whether it's all around the world, and in Israel, all parts of Israel. He was bringing Gaza's visitors to his house on a weekly basis. He was building an industrial centers for 10,000 people for the people from Gaza. He believed in peace and he believed in security, and he brought his heart to everything he was doing. He had a huge heart and he believed in the Negev, in Zionism, and in love.
יש לנו עוד הרבה עבודה קדימה.
First of all, thank you for coming. We appreciate that. My brother Ophir was the head of the municipality called Sha'ar HaNegev, kind of the mayor. And he was doing it for 5 years. At the end of October, he was supposed to re-elected. And at that morning, he had a text and a call from someone who saw terrorists sliding from the air to his kibbutz. The sliders came in from the air, and it was more than the worst case scenario we ever anticipate in Israel. He immediately left the house, ran to the safe room to take the weapon. In Israel at that time, you couldn't have the weapon in the house, you need to go get it. In Hebrew we call it nishkia. And he managed to took it, came back, and next to his house, under an olive tree, he met 2 cars with probably around 40 terrorists. They came to this village, 200 of them, to this kibbutz, and he shot, they shot, there were many, he was killed. Then they continued with the car and they killed his mother-in-law, 81 years old. And she just went to pick her phone and she was killed. This was around 7:15 in the morning. Those people continue to an area that they knew exactly who lives there. Another unit came to the safe room and was waiting for what we call the emergency group, Kitat Konenut, and they killed them over there so they couldn't fight with them before they took the weapon. The area that they focus on was where the young people lives. People from the age of 19 to 22, such a young boys and girls, and they started to really destroy everything, shoot everyone, threw grenades everywhere, use big weapons for tanks on buildings. In one room, there was a couple, Neta and Erin. And Neta was the son of Vered, Ophir's wife, brother, Ori. And they went into the safe room, the couple, and the terrorists were in the main room. All those houses has 2 rooms for young people, the saloon, the living room, and the safe room, which is also the bedroom. And they just opened the safe room door and they threw grenades. And this kid, Neta, jumped over the grenade and he told in Hebrew, Rimon, grenade, and he died saving his girlfriend, his fiancée. She hid below the bed behind his body for 4.5 hours. This is the time to share with you, our brothers, that the army arrived around 6.5 hours later, around 2:30, and the people felt alone, abandoned. They were crying to receive help. I somehow managed to get into those WhatsApp groups within the kibbutz of Dor Tzair, the young people, and it was heartbreaking to see them crying and asking, please help us. Terrorists are in our house, shooting everywhere. And Ophir's second son, Ophir, my brother's second son, Nitzan, was in another house at the same area. He just moved there a month ago, invested a lot of money to make this house beautiful, and he was in panic, afraid that he's going to die. And he begged his brother Aviv, his mother Vered, to come and rescue him. And they asked the army, but there was no army. They thought that people are coming. They thought that all the shooting outside is our army against terrorists, but there was nobody to rescue them. And around 9, the people from the municipality called Vered, Ophir's wife, and told her, look, he's not moving and he's around the house. His phone is there. Can you go to see what's happening? Because without Ophir, it wasn't managed. There are no army. People, terrorists are all over, and they needed him. And Aviv, his first boy, went out under fire and found his father dead below the olive tree. He took his weapon, went in, and guarded his mother and another two sons. One is 14 years old, Idan, and one is 9 years old, Uri. And when they communicate with Nitzan, he's asking, what about my father? And they're telling him, let's talk about it later. And he's gathering information from other people, and he knows. His father died, his grandmother died, and his cousin, Neta, died. Everyone is telling him, hold the door, so they will not be able to throw grenades into your room. And he is doing it and begging for help. But at 11:30, they are shooting at the door, and it's not bulletproof. One bullet is going into his leg, and he's wounded, and a lot of blood. And he's guided by his cousin, who's a doctor, how to stop the bleeding. And he's communicating with us until 2:30. So 3 hours after he was wounded, 6 hours after it started, and then we don't know what happened to him. At 4, the army arrived, and they saw in his room 4 terrorists. They killed them, but they couldn't see him in the room. For the next 12 days, we were looking for him. We thought that he survived because he was not in the room. I came to this place 4 days later, and I searched everywhere under fire, and I couldn't find him. Only 12 days later, one day after the funeral of Ophir, they came to us and they said that he died also, was murdered by the terrorists. So our family was hit by the terrorists of the Hamas 4 times in one day. This Friday, we had the 30th, Shloshim, of my brother Ophir and his son Nitzan. The day before, it was Neta and Bila. And I must share with you that it is becoming tougher and tougher. It's not easier. It takes time to understand what happened, and we're not even, investigating what caused to this thing and how come the army couldn't see it and couldn't come for 6 hours. We're putting it behind us aside, I would say, for a second, because we have 2 huge priorities. The first one, and yesterday it was declared as the first one, is to bring them back home. Those are civilians. They have to be at home. No other answer will be okay. There shouldn't be any negotiation. Those people must be at home. And the second one, and this is where we are all united. There is no left and right. The second one is free Palestine from Hamas. And it's not only the people, it's an idea virus, Hamas, of hating other people, of being or acting it's not human to do what they've done. To kill babies, grandmothers, grandfathers, women, children. So this is where we are all united. And we are starting to ask ourselves, and now what? Okay, after they will be back and we will clean Gaza from Hamas, how we would like to live our lives in safe. And I can share with you what Vera told me, his wife, Ophir's wife, that lost her mother, her husband, her son, and her nephew. When I asked her, where do you want to bury Ophir? She immediately said, in Kfar Aza, for sure, Kibbutz Kfar Aza. The army didn't let us do it, so we buried him now in the center of Israel, in Even Yehuda, with an agreement that he will be moved to this area, to Kfar Gaza. So I knew one thing, they are coming back. And then, a day after the funeral of both her mother and her son, Bila and Nitzan, she rented a house. And she built a house for the 3 kids that left. And her friends from the kibbutz who are broken, they came all together and helped her build the house. And a week later, she hosted them for a barbecue. In Hebrew, we call it al ha'esh. 50 people who came like the old days in the kibbutz to be together. So my message to you on this day is that the force of life, call it prana, chi, whatever, is stronger than any violent terror. And we will grow from it. We will grow from it. I'm asking myself the question instead of Benjamin. Okay. And if you ask me why it happened, it's because we were fighting each other for a full year. And they saw it. And they used this weakness of us, of fighting between brothers. There are no fighting today in Israel. Everyone is united. And the reason why we are here this evening is to be united with you. Because we see you as our ambassadors, as our brothers and sisters who can influence as much as you can here. Because when we see all those parades here, 500,000 people, this is the idea virus I was talking about. And if nobody will do something about it here, people here will experience what we have experienced in Shiva, October 7th. It is relevant for everyone, and this is why we are far away from our families here, talking to you and to officials, to really unite the good people in the world, the light forces, to do something together, to have a better life for us. I would say even for them, even so, I used to be like my brother, all day long thinking about how can we live in peace with the Palestinians. And he devoted his life for that. And most of the people that were killed in the kibbutzes in this area, in the villages, were left-wing, were people who wanted peace. My brother created a plan right now to build 10,000 work positions for Palestinians in new industrial center. He hosted people from Gaza every week in his house, just so they will, especially young people, so they will know that we are people, that we care for them, and if they knew who they killed their future. And there is another woman at one of the kibbutzes who took them to hospitals on a weekly basis. And she was killed. And another man, Waldman, who is investing millions. What? Yes, murdered. Absolutely murdered. The only one that was killed in fighting was my brother Ophir. All the rest were murdered. Thank you. So, in this day, I can tell you, count on us. Israel will flourish again. We call it Tkuma, and it will be our second Tkuma. The first one was after the Holocaust, and the second one is now. This is it. And there is a lot of commitment of the people. Even Benny Gantz and many others said, I'm going to live there. Okay, I'm going to move my house to this area. Right now I hear from army soldiers that are in Gaza who's telling us, I'm bringing my family to live there. Because if they will not live there, it's Ashkelon. Half of Ashkelon is ruined from the missiles. And then it's Ashdod, and Bat Yam, and Chulon, and Tel Aviv, and everywhere in Israel. And then it's London, and Paris, and Washington, and everywhere in the US. We were in Florida. Until a year ago, they thought that they are, they would live in, he lives there sometime. And they thought that they are in the most secure place in the world. And now they meet their neighbor, who they said to him on a daily basis, hello, how are you, etc., demonstrating against them. And they are afraid. They are taking the mezuzah inside. So we are together, united, brothers and sisters, all over the world, fighting the darkness with light. I'm open for any question, and then a song.
Thank you very much, Doron. We will take audience questions for just a moment. Are you the rabbi here? Forgive me. Is that you are the rabbi here? So we're going to close after the audience questions. I'd like it if you would conclude soon with a prayer for the Chayalim of the State of Israel, and you'll give us that privilege. By show of hands, we are going to take some questions. Please, one question and one answer, and please no statements, just questions. Does anybody have any questions? Yes, and forgive me, I know that it's a heavy evening. I don't know you, madam. I'm sure you know how to ask a question, but if I hear statements, I will interject. Please.
I'm honored to be in your presence. The question I have is as follows. I don't know how long you are in London. I would like to ask you if you have a meeting with the Prime Minister. I know you have with the Henry Jackson Society. The reason being, having been involved with Israel regarding Soviet Jewry, it is important to keep your stories in the front line news. So my question is to all of you, have you got meetings with the press, the Prime Minister, so we keep this?
Thank you very much. I understand your question. Thank you. So the meeting tomorrow is with members of Parliament, with members of the House of Lords, peers of the House of Lords, and also with members of the public. So it's open to the public. The press has been invited to attend that meeting, and that is taking place at 5 p.m. tomorrow afternoon. And you're absolutely right that people need to continue to push the story forward and to push this to the forefront of people's conscience. And if anybody here, for example, has the relevant connections to the people that you mentioned, such as a prime minister, you should speak to us and introduce us to those individuals directly. We'll be here informally afterwards and we can move that forward. Doron, you have something?
Yeah, we are here to serve. We spoke to the ambassador of Israel, all of us, and whatever we will request to do, we will do. We are here for this. And I can tell you that in a week I will meet the Prime Minister, the President, and member of the Parliament in Romania, for example. And over there, they want to meet us, and they are ready to hear what we have to say.
And we will be circulating an email to all of you who've attended tonight, urging you to assist with this cause. And so if you have the contacts with the press, if you have the contacts with elected officials, if you have contacts with influencers, sports personalities, media personalities, and so forth, you must connect, not us, but the three people by whom I'm flanked here with those relevant individuals. We'll take another question, please. Anyone else have a question? Yes.
Yes.
Unfortunately, very unfortunately, I am hugely disappointed in our police as to what is happening. Hugely disappointed. And I'm hugely disappointed, although not unexpectedly, with the BBC.
Neil, I have to move you to your question.
Which has been an absolute disaster.
Neil, I have to move you to your question.
The question I want to ask you, we keep hearing about these negotiations. Have you not had a wink? Because Qatar must know whether the hostages are alive or not. They must know. I can't believe they don't know. America is close to...
Hang on a sec. Neil, I'm so sorry. What is the nub of your question?
I just want to know, the question is, have you had any hint at all, of these 240 hostages, right, that they are alive?
Thank you very much. I appreciate your question, and I do appreciate your statement. Don't follow Neil's example, though, ladies and gentlemen. No statements before questions, if that's okay, but I appreciate the sentiment. The question, just for the benefit of the recording, is have you had any confirmation, or not even confirmation, indication that your son is alive, except for the video? You can... Did you understand?
No. I just got the video clip, and the army confirmed that my son is kidnapped. That's the only information I have.
As I said before, all medical situation, we don't know anything.
Have you actually had any proof of life from any of the large organizations, the humanitarian organizations, the medical organizations, or any of the big politicians, or even in the United Nations? Have you had proofs of life? Because I remember when Nahor Goldwasser was attacked by, I think it was Hezbollah, we had to take Karen, and she went to the United Nations in the end and chased Nasrallah from room to room. And that's what you've got to be prepared to do.
Thank you very much. So the question that you asked will...
What proofs of
No, I heard your question.
What organizations are helping you on?
Thank you. I heard your question. So the question, I'm just going to... So the answer to the question, madam, was just given. Unfortunately, they've not received any confirmation or indication of proof of life. Part of the reason that they've not received that is the brutality of Hamas refusing to grant visitation even by the International Red Cross. And I believe that your reiterated question reflects the consternation of all of us when we think about the depravity of an organization that would prevent even the most minute indication from being forthcoming. So I appreciate your question. The answer is no, they have not received that. Okay, I'm just going to add, and the other thing is when you ask what they're prepared to do, so keep in mind that all three, and many more who are not here, all three who are in the front of the synagogue right now, of course, have been thrust into a situation that you know and all of us recognize nobody would ever wish to have been thrust into or have thrust upon them. Orit spoke very clearly about the fact that her life revolves entirely around the work to bring her son back, as is the case for her brother, whose life is on hold to bring his nephew back. Doron, in a private correspondence with me earlier today, and I'm going to repeat this although it was private, said to me, there is nothing that he can do for his family when he's out of the state of Israel. He can only do for the state of Israel when he is out of the country. In other words, he cannot do anything to undo the horrors that took place on October the 7th, but what he's doing here in this country is helping his country back in the state of Israel. So the long and short of it is, all of them are prepared to do anything and everything that's required. I know you wanted to clarify something, and feel free to do that, and then we'll take your question, Adam.
There's a big disappointment from the organizations like the Red Cross and the UN. They are not helping us in any way. We've been in Athens 2 weeks ago, and we met the Red Cross representative in Athens. And he told us in 6 eyes, I believe, that the Red Cross can't do anything because the Hamas don't let him get in Gaza Street. So we asked him to publish it, and says that they can't help us because the Hamas is not let them go inside. And he refused to do it.
The next question, yes.
Apart from contacting influencers, as you've mentioned, the press, politicians and so on, what else can we here in the UK do to bring a resolution to this situation or to assist you?
So the question was asked, apart from contacting influencers, what can the people here in the UK do in order to assist? Do you want to begin, or would you like to begin by saying, and then I can supplement? Yeah.
So, first of all, it's what you just said, is to unite, to be one force in the world. I can give you a few examples from the US, and maybe you can do it here. Academic institution in the US shows a lot of anti-Semitism, and people took their money aside from those organizations. CEOs that came together and decided that the list of people who shows anti-Semitism will not be accepted to their workplace. This changed the momentum from fighting Israel and Judaism around the world to understanding who are the good people, who are the bad people, because people are talking about numbers instead of about values. So do the same here. You have power, really big power. We know that. We are proud of that. And this is the time to use the power to change the momentum from being pro, whatever we will call them, Hamas, ISIS, to be pro-Israel, pro the good people. We need the UK to understand that they must choose darkness or light. And we have the power, you have the power to influence them. You can also come to Israel to help, volunteer. A lot of people are doing it from the US using JNF, Kakal, helping architecture, etc., helping with funding, because it takes months or years for the government to do it. And we are now supporting everything. We are buying for the army stuff. We are giving one to another whatever is needed. The people of Israel, not the government. So you can join forces with us and help us with resources. But the most important thing is this is the time to unite. There is no difference between Israelis and other people in the diaspora. We are all together, as you said, one family. And this is the time to prove it, and not just during war, to learn from it for the future.
So I think just, you wanted to add to that? Yeah.
I can help you with this. We have this kind of photos of 240 hostages. I can send you a whole bunch of photos of all of the hostages, and if you can make here mitzag, exhibit of all the hostages here in London or in few places in London, it will be great for the awareness.
We just had it was a rally, not a demonstration, outside Downing Street, where they had a lot of pictures of these, the hostages.
Thank you.
Just to reassure you, it's
So I just
already
want
happening.
Did you want to add anything else? So I just want to, I want to impress upon everyone a few things. First of all, it's very important that everybody recognizes the gravity of the moment. We march as Jews in and out of crises. And sometimes as a consequence of marching in and out of crises, we become somewhat inured against the crisis itself. That's not the situation in which we find ourselves today. There is, as I said during my opening comments, there is an acute, massive challenge before our people, and how our people responds to 240 of our number being kidnapped and held hostage and not being granted visitation rights and not being given any indication whatsoever of life. How we respond to that is going to reverberate and reverberate for decades, and dare I even say centuries to come. We have to respond to that with strength, and we have to respond to that by grasping hold of and pulling with maximal force upon the levers of power that you all have at your disposal. And I'm not going to ask you to answer this question because I don't want to shame anybody here, but I'll give but one example. How many of you have personally, don't answer it, but answer it inwardly to yourselves, how many of you have personally made it your business and given of your time to write to your members of parliament? Probably not all of you. Probably not all of you. Personally, how many of you have made it your business and given of your time to respond to the dreadful media that Neil mentioned is taking place, to write to the editor? Some of you are nodding, most of you probably haven't. I'm not asking people to publicly respond again because I don't want to shame anybody. How many of you have made it your business to do as Doron just said and turn up in the state of Israel? You know, there's a saying in Israel, they say, En tachlif leben adam bashetach, which means there is no substitute for a man or woman in the field. That's where you understand what's going on and what's taking place. You can only discern so much by way of headlines and media and media coverage and so forth. Now is the time to show up in the state of Israel. Now is the time to impress upon our legislators in Israel the importance that you, as British Jews, place upon the return of people like Almog and everybody else you saw in that video and all of those who have not even been put in a video. And it's an incredible situation because there are some parents whose children were kidnapped and they were initially told that their children had been murdered on that day, and they celebrated the sense of relief that they felt that they'd been murdered rather than kidnapped. And then there are other parents who say, we've seen our son kidnapped in this video, and that is what gives you hope and what sustains them. So everybody is coming to this in a different manner, from a different angle, and all of it is just beyond horrific. So I think that you must write, you must challenge the media headlines. You all have the ability to do it. If you haven't yet done it, you should have done it, and you should resolve to do it forthwith, beginning tomorrow. All of you should speak to Orit and ask her how and where you can continue. It's very, very worthy that you've done this already. It's very heartening to us that you've done it already, but it can't stop, because I can tell you, when I walk through the streets of London now, I see that where there used to be signs saying kidnapped Israeli children, teenagers, mothers, daughters, sons, fathers, grandparents, I'm now seeing signs that say murdered by the IDF. Right? I saw it on Baker Street just the other day. I have a photograph of it on my phone. They've copied exactly the colors that the Forum for the Families are using, and they're placing pictures of individuals, who knows whether it's true or not true, asserting that they've been murdered by the Israel Defense Forces. So the war for public opinion is taking place not just in the sheets of our newspapers or on television, but it's everywhere and anywhere. And you have to push back against it. And I also will tell you, I really think that when Doron speaks about being united, and I see there are individuals here not of the Jewish faith, work with communities not of the Jewish faith. Certainly work within our own faith, the Jewish community, but partner with those who are not of the Jewish faith, because those who are righteous and of good heart will help to propel this cause forward. I know it from my own work. The gentleman here will speak to you, I'm sure, informally afterwards, and he represents many, many more who understand the very clear contrast between good and evil and the importance that good prevails. So write, speak, present, demonstrate, but most importantly, give of your time and give of your talents in this cause. And I do reiterate, you should be coming to the State of Israel. Just one personal anecdote. In 1967, during the Six-Day War, my father turned up in Israel to take the place of farmers, yes, of farmers who, they call it the Six-Day War, but actually the soldiers were on the frontier there for many, many, many months thereafter. He tended and toiled and tilled, rather, the soil in Israel. The areas that were raided, these were our farms, these were our centers of agriculture. We need hands on deck. It's very important. I think that I want to be loyal to the time. I'm going to ask, please, that we conclude with the prayer for the soldiers of the State of Israel in just a moment, Rabbi. I do want to ask all of you to please speak to our guests informally. Find out what you can do. See the email that we send out to you tonight or tomorrow. You'll be receiving it latest tomorrow. Let the conclusion of our time tonight be the commencement of a journey forward of solidarity. And please remember, you can directly invest by way of purchasing a bracelet or a necklace here at the front. Jeff.
We bought bracelets for everybody. So just walk
That's
out
fantastic.
The door and the bracelets are yours.
That's amazing, Jeff.
Synagogue has done that for everybody.
Jeff, thank you so very much for doing that. We appreciate that greatly. Yeah, that's broken. Please say something. Yeah, please say something.
Another important things to do is, everything happens twice. One in our imagination and then in reality. See them coming home now. So imagine each one can take one person and see him coming home now. And I can tell you that we are starting to build, how would I would call it, Hossein, resilience of the people. Because, we will build the houses, we will build the villages, we will build the fans again, but we need now to focus on the people, to help the people heal from this trauma. We cannot call it post-trauma because we are still in the trauma. And if you have the ability to help us with this trauma, it is also your trauma. We are all traumatized right now. I can tell you that my brother, for example, turned the fact that alarm in Israel called Tseva Adom, red color, red alert. And he saw that in this area there are red flowers everywhere in February, so he created a project called South Red. And hundreds of thousands of Israelis are coming to this area around the border with Gaza to see the flowers every year on February. What? Every winter in February to see the kalaniot. Exactly. How do you say kalaniot in English? Kalaniot. So on Friday, we started to plant kalaniot, red flowers, in different places. This Friday it was in my village in Kfar Neter where Ophir was born, and it will happen all over Israel, solidarity of having red flowers. And I can share with you about another thing that we have done. I have a video about it, but I'm not sure that you can hear it. We have in Israel something called Kululam, where we are singing together. So we took one village, Kibbutz Kfar Aza, that is now based in Shfaim, another kibbutz, and we sang with them a song called Bo, Come. And they started to sing very, very sad, but then the frequency went up. They started to smile, and it was a healing moment. I wish that we could hear it or see it or even a little bit of it if you have it, but it will give you a lot of optimism about how strong we are. Rabbi.
Rabbi Epstein, Will from our neighboring St. Matthew's Church, thank you both so much for coming, and ladies and gentlemen. Before we say the Tefillah, the Shlom Medina, the prayer for the peace of Israel and the Mishaberach Tzahal, and we'll follow that by a Kaddish for all those that we have lost. We thought we were coming here to give you four hope and support. It is the complete opposite. You four have given us hope and support, and God willing, we will get through all of this together because we are one. And we thank you, and we wish you all the success in everything you do. And may Ufduye Hashem Yeshuvun, may he come back with all the other 240 together. Amen. Amen. Please stand. Avinu Shebashamayim, Tzur Yisrael וגואלו, ברך את מדינת ישראל, ראשית צמיחת גאולתנו. הגן עליה בפרט חסדך, ופרוס עליה סוכת שלומך, ושלח אורך ועמיתך לראשיה, שריה ויועציה, ותקנם בעצה טובה מלפניך. חזק את ידי מגיני ארץ קודשנו, והנחילם עלינו ישועה, ותרם ניצחון תעטרם. ונתת שלום בארץ, ושמחת עולם ליושביה. ואת אחינו כל בית ישראל, וקודנה בכל ארצות פזוריהם, ותוליכם מהרה קוממיות לציון עירך, וירושלים משכן שמך. ככתוב בתורת משה עבדך, אם יהיה לידך בקצה השמיים, משם יקבצך אדוני אלוהיך, ומשם ייקחך. והביאך אדוני אלוהיך לארץ, אשר ירשו אבותיך וירשת, והיטיבך וירבך מאבותיך. ויחד לבבינו לאהבה וליראה את שמך, ולשמור את כל דברי תורתך, ושלח לנו מהרה בן דוד משיח צדקך, לפדות מחכה קץ ישועתך. הופע באדם גאון עוזך על כל יושבי תבל ארצך, ויאמר כל אשר נשמה ביפו אדוני, אלוהי ישראל מלך, ומלכותו בכל משלה, אמן, סלע. Now the Mishaberach for the Chayalim. מי שברך אבותינו אברהם, יצחק ויעקב, הוא יברך את חיילי צבא הגנה לישראל, העומדים על משמר ארצנו, והרי אלוהינו, מגבול הלבנון ועד מדבר מצרים, ומן הים הגדול עד לבוא הערבה, ביבשה, באוויר ובים ובעזה. ייתן אדוני את אויביהם הקמים עלינו ניגפים לפניהם. הקדוש ברוך הוא ישמור ויציל את חיילינו מכל צרה וצוקה ומכל נגע ומחלה, וישלח ברכה והצלחה בכל מעשה ידיהם, ויחזיר את כל חטופי ישראל. ידבר שונאינו תחתיהם, ויעטרם בכתר ישועה ובעטרת ניצחון. וקיים בהם הכתוב, כי אדוני אלוהיכם ההולך עמכם, להילחם לכם, להושיע אתכם, ונאמר אמן. Please say the Kaddish together. יתקדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, ביאמר דברך שמותי, וימליך מלכותי. בחי יחון וביום יחון ובחיי לכל בית ישראל. בעגלה ובזמן קריב, ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעולם, ולאמר להם. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר, ויתרומם ויתנשא. ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל, שמי לפרשה בריחו. לעילם עם כל ברכתה ושירתה, תשבחתה ונחמתה, לאמירם בעלמה, ואמרו אמן. יהי שלום הרבה בן שמעיה, חיים עלינו, על כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. רוצה שלום במרומה, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו, ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. עם ישראל חי, ladies and gentlemen, חזק ואמת.
You'll join me in singing Hatikva. כל עוד בלבב פנימה, נפש יהודי הומייה, ונפתחי מזרח קדימה, עין ציון צופיה.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much, and thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.